Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you to consider the image of a woman walking alone. It's a striking image, a solitary figure, perhaps on a quiet street or amidst the vastness of nature, facing the world with no one beside her. Now, there's a deep significance to this idea, an archetype, if you will, that resonates with the essence of human existence. It's a symbol of autonomy, of courage, of personal responsibility. But it's also a reflection of something far more profound, the internal struggle between dependence and independence, comfort and challenge, the familiar and the unknown. Often viewed with trepidation or fear in modern society, is in reality a profound decision. The idea of walking alone, whether physically or metaphorically, represents not just an external circumstance, but an internal choice, a choice to step away from the noise, from the distractions, from the pressures of others, and to face the world on one's own terms. It is a decision that carries immense weight and significance. To walk alone is to acknowledge that we do not need others to define us. We do not need the constant validation of the crowd, the consensus of society, or the approval of friends and family to move forward in life. It is an act of courage, one that demands strength, self-assurance, and clarity. In many cultures, and particularly in modern times, there is a tendency to associate solitude with loneliness, weakness, or even failure. The solitary figure is often painted as an outcast, someone who has been rejected by society or who cannot form meaningful relationships. Yet, this is a superficial and reductive view. Solitude is not the absence of connection, it is the deliberate choice to stand apart in order to reflect, to discover, and to grow. It's important to recognize that walking alone does not mean rejecting the world, it means taking the time to understand one's place in it, without the constant influence of external voices. The decision to walk alone is not a retreat into isolation, but rather a call to engage with life in a deeper, more meaningful way. This decision is not an easy one. In a world that encourages constant interaction, connectivity, and social engagement, choosing solitude can feel unnatural or even threatening. Social media, modern communication, and the constant flow of information all push us toward constant interaction, sometimes at the expense of meaningful personal reflection. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that to be truly alive, we must be surrounded by others. We are led to believe that our worth is somehow tied to our relationships, our networks, and our popularity. The decision to walk alone then challenges these assumptions, forcing us to confront the idea that our worth is not determined by the number of people who surround us or by the number of voices that affirm our identity. When a person consciously decides to walk alone, they are choosing to trust themselves, to rely on their own judgment, their own abilities, and their own internal compass. This is in itself a radical act of self-responsibility. It requires a willingness to face the uncertainties of life, to accept the inherent risks of walking a path without a crowd, and to embrace the inevitable discomfort that comes with stepping away from the familiar. But it is precisely in this discomfort that growth occurs. The decision to walk alone forces us to grapple with our own weaknesses and vulnerabilities. It demands that we confront the parts of ourselves that we might otherwise ignore or suppress, and in doing so, it offers the possibility of transformation. The act of walking alone requires a person to ask themselves fundamental questions. What do I want from life? What is my purpose? What values do I hold most dear? These questions, which might otherwise go unexamined in the hustle of daily life, become central when we choose solitude. In the absence of external distractions, we are forced to look inward, to examine the assumptions and beliefs that guide our actions. The decision to walk alone, therefore, becomes an act of profound self-discovery. It is a way of stripping away the superficial layers that others impose on us and getting closer to the core of who we truly are. Yet, this decision does not mean rejecting the idea of community or relationships altogether. To walk alone is not to isolate oneself from others. Rather, it is to recognize that we must first be whole within ourselves before we can genuinely connect with others. When we choose to walk alone, we are not turning our backs on the world, but rather preparing ourselves to engage with it more authentically. Only when we are comfortable with our own solitude can we build relationships that are based on mutual respect and understanding rather than dependence or the need for validation. The decision to walk alone also requires us to come to terms with fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of the unknown. Walking alone means stepping into the unknown, and that can be intimidating. It means facing the possibility of making mistakes without the safety net of others to catch us. But this, too, is part of the decision. To walk alone is to acknowledge that life is inherently uncertain, and to accept that uncertainty is the price of freedom. Only when we embrace this uncertainty can we truly live with purpose and meaning. Solitude is a decision to take control of one's life. It is a declaration of independence, a refusal to be passive in the face of life's challenges. It is an assertion of agency, a recognition that we are the architects of our own destiny. Walking alone is not about rejecting the world, but about choosing to engage with it on our own terms. It is about acknowledging that the most important relationship we have is the one with ourselves, and that only through understanding and accepting ourselves can we fully engage with the world around us. In choosing solitude, we are not retreating from life, we are stepping into it more fully. We are acknowledging the depth and complexity of our own existence, and in doing so, we make room for the profound connections, the meaningful growth, and the true freedom that comes when we walk alone. Strength in solitude is a concept that goes against much of modern society's tendency to equate aloneness with weakness or failure. Solitude is often misunderstood. It is seen as something to be avoided, a state of emptiness or loneliness that signifies something has gone wrong. In contrast, true strength lies not in the avoidance of solitude, but in the ability to embrace it, to find clarity and purpose in moments of silence and solitude. It is in these moments, far from the noise and distractions of the world, that we can confront the deepest truths of our existence. To be strong in solitude requires a willingness to face ourselves. It's not easy. In solitude, we are confronted with our own thoughts, our own fears, and our own shortcomings. There is no one to distract us from these internal conflicts. The external noise of life, which often serves as a shield against uncomfortable emotions and reflections, fades away. In solitude, we cannot escape the parts of ourselves that we would rather avoid. We are left with the raw, unfiltered reality of who we are. It is in these moments, stripped of pretense and the masks we wear for the world, that we truly come face to face with ourselves. And it is through this confrontation that we find strength. When we allow ourselves to experience solitude, we are given the opportunity to reflect on the choices we have made in life and the direction in which we are heading. In the rush of everyday life, it is easy to be swept along, carried by the momentum of responsibilities, expectations, and distractions. But in solitude, we are forced to slow down. We are no longer caught in the current of external forces. Instead, we become aware of the course we are charting for ourselves. This awareness is the first step toward gaining strength. It is only when we pause and reflect that we can see where we are, and perhaps more importantly, where we need to go. Strength does not come from simply moving forward without direction. It comes from moving forward with clarity and purpose, which solitude uniquely provides. Solitude also offers us the space to confront our vulnerabilities. In the company of others, it is easy to hide behind the facade of confidence, to pretend we have everything under control. But in solitude, there is no place to hide. We must face the parts of ourselves that we would rather keep hidden, the fears, insecurities, and doubts that we often bury beneath layers of activity and social interaction. It is uncomfortable, even painful, to confront these aspects of ourselves, but it is through this process that we find true strength. When we face our vulnerabilities head on, we begin to understand them, accept them, and ultimately grow stronger in the process. Strength in solitude comes from the realization that we are not dependent on others for validation or support. In the modern world, there is often pressure to conform, to seek approval, or to measure our worth against others. But solitude forces us to detach from this external validation. When we walk alone, we are no longer defined by the opinions of others. We are free from the judgments, expectations, and comparisons that often shape our lives. This freedom allows us to become more authentic, to pursue our goals based on our own values and desires rather than the influence of those around us. This independence is not about rejecting others or shutting ourselves off from the world. It is about finding our own center, cultivating our own strength, and learning to trust ourselves. It is also in solitude that we discover our capacity for resilience. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and suffering. In moments of solitude, we are reminded of the inevitability of hardship, but it is precisely in these moments that we develop the strength to persevere. When we are alone, we are often forced to rely on our own resources to cope with difficulty. There is no one to lean on, no external support to cushion the blow. And yet, through this process, we discover an incredible inner strength. We realize that we have the capacity to endure, to overcome, and to keep moving forward, even when it feels impossible. The resilience that comes from solitude is not a strength that is given to us by others. It is a strength that we cultivate within ourselves through the challenges we face and the ways in which we respond to them. Strength in solitude also means embracing the discomfort of uncertainty. The world is full of unknowns, and when we are alone, we cannot avoid these uncertainties. There is no one to provide answers, no one to reassure us that everything will be okay. But it is in this discomfort that we grow. Strength in solitude is not the absence of fear or doubt, but the ability to face them and continue moving forward despite them. It is the willingness to live with ambiguity, to make decisions without knowing what the outcome will be, and to trust that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. Strength in solitude is about reclaiming our time and our attention. In a world that is constantly demanding our energy and focus, solitude offers us the rare opportunity to reconnect with ourselves. It allows us to engage in activities that nourish our soul, whether that be reading, creating, or simply being present with our thoughts. This is not a selfish act, but rather a necessary one. In order to be strong for others, we must first be strong within ourselves. Solitude gives us the space to replenish our inner resources so that we can face the world with greater clarity, focus, and purpose. And in the end, strength in solitude is a quiet internal power. It is not the loud external display of force that is often celebrated in society. Instead, it is the quiet strength that comes from confronting ourselves, facing our fears, and learning to trust our own judgment. It is the strength to stand alone when necessary, to find meaning in our own company, and to move through the world with resilience and purpose. Through solitude, we discover that our greatest strength lies not in our ability to avoid the challenges of life, but in our ability to face them, alone but unafraid. Confronting chaos is one of the most profound and unsettling tasks that any individual can undertake. The world is full of unpredictability, disorder, and challenge. We are surrounded by uncertainty at every turn in our personal lives, in the relationships we hold dear, and in the larger social and political landscapes that influence our daily existence. Life, in its essence, is chaotic. It is filled with moments of confusion, crisis, and struggle, all of which threaten to overwhelm us. Yet, it is within this very chaos that we have the opportunity to find meaning, growth, and strength. Confronting chaos is not an act of running away or avoiding it. It is an act of engagement, of standing firm in the face of disorder, and choosing to make sense of the seemingly senseless. The first step in confronting chaos is acknowledging its existence. Too often we attempt to ignore or suppress the discomfort that chaos brings. We distract ourselves with busy schedules, superficial activities, or avoidance strategies. Yet chaos will always find a way to make itself known. It can manifest in personal tragedy, the sudden loss of something or someone important, or the unraveling of our long-held beliefs about the world. It often comes unexpectedly, shaking the foundations of our carefully constructed lives. The chaos that comes is not something we can easily control, nor is it something we can avoid forever, but it is something we can confront head on. When we face chaos, we are often forced to confront the limits of our control. Most of us desire order and stability. We want clear, predictable outcomes. We want to believe that if we work hard enough or plan carefully enough, we can avoid the storms that life sometimes throws at us. However, chaos teaches us that control is an illusion. We cannot always predict the future, nor can we protect ourselves from the full scope of life's unpredictability. But within this realization, there is a powerful lesson. True strength is not found in the illusion of control, but in our ability to adapt, respond, and navigate the unknown. When we confront chaos, we begin to understand that our true power lies in how we react to it. The chaos we encounter is often a reflection of the internal conflict we carry within ourselves. Just as the external world is unpredictable and full of turbulence, our inner world is no less chaotic. We all harbor unresolved emotions, conflicting desires, and fears that we often attempt to suppress or ignore. When we are forced to confront the external chaos, it often brings to the surface the internal chaos that we have not yet addressed. This can be uncomfortable, even painful, but it is in facing these inner struggles that we begin to understand ourselves more deeply. By confronting the chaos inside, we free ourselves from the grip of unacknowledged emotions and desires, allowing us to move forward with clarity and purpose. To confront chaos is also to confront suffering. Life is filled with suffering, personal, social, and universal. We often go to great lengths to avoid it, seeking comfort and pleasure as a way to shield ourselves from pain. But chaos is inherently tied to suffering. When the order of our lives is disrupted, we often experience pain, whether it is the grief of loss, the confusion of failure, or the disillusionment that comes when our expectations are shattered. It is easy to fall into despair when confronted with suffering, to feel as though the chaos will swallow us whole. Yet within suffering lies an opportunity for growth. When we confront suffering, when we allow ourselves to experience it fully and honestly, we find that it does not destroy us. Instead, it teaches us resilience, compassion, and empathy. By facing suffering directly, we gain the strength to endure and emerge from it stronger than before. One of the most important aspects of confronting chaos is the recognition that we do not face it alone. Though chaos may feel isolating at times, it is universal. Everyone faces moments of uncertainty, of loss, and of upheaval. When we confront chaos, we are joining a larger human struggle, one that connects us to the experiences of others. In this sense, chaos can be a unifying force. It strips away the superficial differences that divide us and reveals the shared vulnerability of the human experience. By acknowledging the chaos in the world and in ourselves, we can connect with others in a deeper, more meaningful way. We can offer empathy, understanding, and support, recognizing that we are all in this together. Confronting chaos also requires us to make choices, difficult, often uncomfortable choices. When chaos enters our lives, we are forced to navigate it with limited information. We must make decisions without knowing what the outcome will be, and we must do so amidst uncertainty and fear. This is the essence of living with courage. Courage is not the absence of fear or chaos, it is the willingness to act in spite of them. It is the decision to move forward even when the path ahead is unclear. By confronting chaos, we strengthen our ability to make choices in the face of uncertainty, and in doing so, we build our capacity for resilience. The ultimate reward of confronting chaos is the discovery of meaning. Chaos often disrupts the patterns we rely on, forcing us to reconsider our beliefs, values, and priorities. It can be a catalyst for personal transformation, pushing us to redefine what is truly important. When we face chaos directly, we are invited to reimagine our lives, to find new purpose, and to create meaning in the midst of turmoil. In this way, chaos is not merely something to be endured, it is an opportunity to transform ourselves and our circumstances. By confronting chaos, we are not only learning to survive, we are learning to thrive in a world that is inherently unpredictable and uncertain. Ultimately, to confront chaos is to engage fully with the reality of life. It is to acknowledge that the world is messy, unpredictable, and full of suffering, but it is also full of potential. In confronting chaos, we discover our capacity for resilience, growth, and transformation. We learn that we are not defined by the chaos we face, but by how we choose to respond to it. By embracing the chaos, we step into our power, and in doing so, we create order, meaning, and strength in the midst of life's unpredictability. Wisdom in solitude is a rare and valuable gift, one that is often overlooked in a world that constantly encourages noise, distraction, and interaction. In our fast paced, hyper connected society, we are continuously surrounded by external voices, media, technology, social circles, and a relentless stream of information that demand our attention. The idea of being alone, of withdrawing from this constant buzz, is often viewed as unproductive or isolating. Yet it is in these moments of solitude that true wisdom can emerge. Solitude offers a space for deep reflection, where one can connect with their innermost thoughts and feelings without the interference of outside influences. In this quiet, we are given the opportunity to discern truth from illusion, to hear our own voice amid the noise, and to cultivate the kind of wisdom that cannot be gained through mere interaction with the world. At the heart of wisdom in solitude lies the ability to listen, truly listen, not just to the world around us, but to our own minds and hearts. In solitude, we are able to pause and reflect on our experiences, our choices, and our desires. The distractions of daily life fade away, leaving only the raw material of our thoughts and emotions. It is in this space that we can examine our beliefs, challenge our assumptions, and confront our biases. Without the constant influence of others, we are free to engage with the deeper questions of life. What do I believe to be true? What are my values? How do I want to live? These questions are often drowned out by the noise of modern life, but in solitude they rise to the surface. The wisdom we find in solitude is not the kind of knowledge that is learned from books or taught by others. It is the wisdom that comes from a deep and honest engagement with our own experiences and understanding of the world. This reflective process allows us to make sense of our past and chart a clearer course for the future. In solitude, we are not pressured by the expectations of others or the demands of the moment. We have the time and space to review our lives from a broader perspective, to recognize patterns, and to learn from our mistakes. Wisdom in solitude comes from the ability to step back, detach from immediate emotions, and view our lives through a more objective lens. It is through this distance that we gain clarity about what matters most to us and what does not. We come to understand the deeper forces that drive our actions, the motivations that lie beneath the surface of our behavior. This kind of self-awareness is a cornerstone of wisdom, for it allows us to navigate the world with a sense of purpose and intention, rather than reacting mindlessly to external circumstances. Solitude also gives us the opportunity to confront our fears, insecurities, and doubts without the need for external validation. In the company of others, it is easy to hide behind a mask, to present a version of ourselves that is more acceptable or more comfortable. But in solitude, we are left with our truest self. This confrontation with our inner demons can be uncomfortable, but it is necessary for growth. When we are alone with ourselves, we cannot avoid the truths that we may be unwilling to face. In solitude, there is no one to distract us, no one to tell us what we want to hear. We must face our fears head on, and in doing so, we find the strength to overcome them. It is in the quiet moments of solitude that we discover the courage to be vulnerable, to embrace our imperfections, and to acknowledge our humanity. This self-acceptance is a key component of wisdom, for it allows us to navigate the world with humility, knowing that we are all fallible and that growth is an ongoing process. Wisdom in solitude is intimately connected to creativity and insight. When we are alone, we have the freedom to explore new ideas, to think without limitation, and to engage with our creativity in a way that is not influenced by the opinions or expectations of others. In solitude, we are free to follow our curiosity, to pursue interests and passions that may seem trivial or unconventional to the outside world. This freedom often leads to profound insights and breakthroughs that would not be possible in the constant rush of daily life. Many of the world's greatest thinkers, writers, and artists have found their most profound inspiration in moments of solitude, when they could turn inward and listen to the quiet voice of their own creativity. In this sense, solitude is not just a place for reflection, but a fertile ground for new ideas and fresh perspectives. The wisdom that arises in solitude is also rooted in the cultivation of patience. In a world that demands instant gratification and constant progress, solitude teaches us the value of waiting, of taking time, of allowing things to unfold naturally. Wisdom is not something that can be rushed. It is the product of time, of experience, and of careful consideration. In solitude, we learn to trust the process, to sit with uncertainty, and to allow answers to emerge in their own time. This patience is a vital component of wisdom, for it allows us to approach life's challenges with a calm and steady mind, knowing that we do not always have to have the answers right away. Solitude can deepen our connection to nature and the world around us. When we are alone, we are more attuned to the rhythms of the natural world. We notice the changing seasons, the way the light falls at different times of day, and the subtle shifts in the environment that we might otherwise miss. This connection to the natural world can be a powerful source of wisdom, as it reminds us of the impermanence of life, the interconnectedness of all things, and the beauty that exists in simplicity. It teaches us to slow down, to be present, and to appreciate the small, often overlooked moments that make life meaningful. Wisdom in solitude teaches us to cultivate gratitude. When we are alone, we are given the space to reflect on what we have rather than what we lack. In solitude, we realize the richness of our inner world, the thoughts, memories, and experiences that make up our lives, and come to appreciate the quiet moments of peace that we often take for granted. This gratitude, nurtured in the stillness of solitude, allows us to approach life with a sense of contentment and fulfillment, rather than always seeking more or striving for something outside of ourselves. Wisdom in solitude is a rare and valuable gift that is only accessible to those who are willing to embrace silence and introspection. It is in these moments of solitude that we come to know ourselves, confront our fears, reflect on our past, and chart a course for the future. In solitude, we find the space to listen to our inner voice, to cultivate patience and creativity, and to deepen our connection to the world around us. Through solitude, we discover the kind of wisdom that is not taught, but earned through experience, reflection, and personal growth. Self-reliance and independence are qualities that are increasingly valued in a world that often emphasizes the importance of connection, collaboration, and dependence on others. In an era of social networks, constant communication, and interdependence, the idea of self-reliance can seem like a rare, even antiquated virtue. Yet, it is perhaps in the cultivation of independence and self-reliance that one finds the deepest sense of personal strength, fulfillment, and purpose. These qualities are not about rejecting others or shutting oneself off from the world, but about developing the internal resources, confidence, and resolve to navigate life on one's own terms. Self-reliance is the ability to trust oneself. It is the confidence to make decisions based on one's own judgment and values, without being unduly influenced by the opinions or expectations of others. In a world full of external noise, where every decision seems to come with a multitude of unsolicited opinions and advice, self-reliance is the ability to cut through this clutter and listen to one's own voice. It is about having the courage to follow your own path, even when it diverges from the conventional or expected route. This kind of independence doesn't come from a place of arrogance or defiance, but from a deep-rooted belief in one's own abilities and the understanding that ultimately we are responsible for the choices we make and the lives we lead. Independence is also about taking ownership of one's life and actions. In many ways, the modern world encourages a mentality of blame and victimhood, where external forces are often seen as the primary determinants of success or failure. Self reliance requires a shift in perspective, recognizing that while external circumstances may influence our lives, we are still the ones who ultimately control our responses. Rather than waiting for the world to change or relying on others to solve our problems, self reliant individuals take proactive steps to improve their situations. They understand that personal growth, progress, and success come from within, and that they must put in the work to achieve their goals. This mindset fosters resilience, as self reliance empowers individuals to overcome obstacles, learn from failures, and keep moving forward no matter the challenges they face. To be self reliant is also to be resourceful. In an increasingly complex world where we are constantly bombarded with information and options, the ability to solve problems and make decisions on our own is an invaluable skill. Self reliance doesn't mean doing everything alone, rather, it's about knowing how to utilize the resources at your disposal, whether they are material, intellectual, or emotional, to find solutions. It's about learning how to navigate uncertainty, how to trust your instincts, and how to make the most of what you have. This resourcefulness is a form of independence because it allows you to remain unshaken by the unexpected, to adapt and improvise in the face of adversity, and to find creative solutions to complex problems. Independence also brings a sense of freedom. When we rely on others for validation, support, or approval, we often find ourselves constrained by their expectations and desires. We live in reaction to the people and circumstances around us, rather than taking the initiative to shape our own lives. Self reliance, on the other hand, creates a sense of autonomy, a freedom to act according to our own principles, desires, and values. This kind of freedom is not about isolation or detachment from others, but about the ability to make choices that align with who we truly are without the need for external approval or validation. When we are self reliant, we no longer need to seek permission or approval from others. We become the architects of our own lives. One of the most powerful aspects of self reliance is the sense of inner strength it cultivates. When we are not dependent on others for our happiness, self worth, or sense of purpose, we develop a resilience that can weather any storm. Life is unpredictable, and we will inevitably face moments of hardship, uncertainty, or loss. In these moments, our ability to rely on ourselves becomes the anchor that keeps us grounded. The more we develop our self reliance, the more we realize that we are capable of handling whatever challenges come our way. We trust that we have the inner resources to adapt, to learn, and to persevere no matter what the world throws at us. This internal strength is not something that is given to us by others, but something we build through our own actions, decisions, and perseverance. Self reliance also fosters a sense of personal growth. It encourages us to take responsibility for our own development, to seek out opportunities to learn, and to continually improve ourselves. When we are dependent on others for our happiness or sense of worth, we are often at the mercy of external factors. But when we cultivate self reliance, we recognize that our growth is in our own hands. We take ownership of our progress, whether it's in our personal relationships, careers, or physical and mental well being. This drive for self improvement is empowering because it puts the control back in our hands. We are no longer passive recipients of life's circumstances. We become active participants in shaping our own futures. It's important to note that self reliance and independence do not mean that we should isolate ourselves from others or reject the support of those who care about us. True independence is not about going it alone, but about knowing when to rely on others and when to rely on ourselves. It's about striking a balance between seeking help when necessary and having the strength to stand on our own 2 feet when the situation calls for it. The most independent people are often those who are best able to forge healthy, mutually beneficial relationships because they don't rely on others for their sense of worth or validation. They understand that their independence enhances their ability to give and receive in relationships rather than creating a sense of dependence or imbalance. Self-reliance and independence are qualities that empower us to take control of our lives, to shape our futures according to our own values and desires, and to face the challenges of life with confidence and resilience. These qualities do not emerge overnight, nor do they come without effort. They require us to develop inner strength, to trust ourselves, and to take responsibility for our choices. But once cultivated, they bring a deep sense of fulfillment as they allow us to live authentically, to navigate the world on our own terms, and to meet whatever comes our way with grace and resolve. Ultimately, self-reliance is not about rejecting others, but about knowing that we have the ability to stand firm in our own strength and continue moving forward no matter what the future holds. Not rejecting others is a principle that lies at the heart of healthy relationships, personal growth, and collective harmony. In a world that often celebrates individualism and self-reliance, there is a tendency to overlook the importance of human connection and mutual support. However, true independence and personal strength are not about isolating oneself or rejecting others. Rather, they are about recognizing the interdependence that binds us all together and understanding that while we may rely on ourselves for personal growth, we are also deeply enriched by our relationships with others. Rejecting others, whether consciously or unconsciously, often stems from fear, misunderstanding, or insecurity. It is easy to withdraw from others when we feel vulnerable or threatened, when we perceive someone as different or challenging to our worldview, or when we feel the need to protect our emotional space. However, rejecting others can also be a form of self-sabotage. It isolates us from the richness of shared experiences, the support of community, and the opportunity to learn from those whose perspectives differ from our own. The truth is, we are social beings, and no matter how independent or self-reliant we become, we need others to help us see beyond our own limited perspective. Not rejecting others means embracing empathy and understanding. It requires us to put ourselves in another's shoes, to recognize the struggles and challenges they face, and to acknowledge that their experiences, though different from our own, are just as valid and valuable. When we open ourselves up to the experiences of others, we not only deepen our understanding of the world, but we also enrich our own personal growth. Others often offer us new ways of seeing, new ways of thinking, and new ways of thinking, and new ways of being in the world. They challenge our assumptions, broaden our horizons, and push us to grow in ways we could never achieve in isolation. By accepting and embracing others, we unlock the potential for mutual growth where both parties benefit from the exchange. There is also a profound strength in connection. It's easy to believe that strength comes from standing alone, from facing the world with a hardened, solitary resolve. Yet, true strength often comes from vulnerability, from allowing ourselves to be seen and known by others, and from offering that same transparency in return. By rejecting others, we close ourselves off to the possibility of meaningful connection. We miss the opportunity to form deep, supportive relationships that can help us weather life's inevitable storms. In these relationships, we find not only comfort and solace, but also courage and strength. When we are willing to connect with others, we build a network of support that empowers us to face challenges with resilience and grace. Not rejecting others is also about the courage to face discomfort. It's easy to reject someone who makes us feel uncomfortable, whether because they challenge our beliefs, they come from a different background, or they present a perspective we find difficult to understand. But in rejecting them, we also reject the opportunity to grow. It is in the uncomfortable moments, the moments where we are forced to confront our biases, our fears, or our ignorance, that we have the most potential for growth. Instead of pushing people away when they make us uncomfortable, we should lean in and ask ourselves why we feel that way. What is it about this person or their perspective that causes us discomfort? By engaging with those who challenge us, we open ourselves up to deeper levels of understanding and ultimately to personal transformation. Not rejecting others means accepting the inherent complexity of human beings. No one is perfect, and every individual carries with them a story of triumph and failure, joy and sorrow, light and darkness. When we reject others, we often do so because we judge them based on their flaws, mistakes, or shortcomings. However, the act of rejection often ignores the fact that everyone is a work in progress. We all have moments of weakness, moments of failure, and moments where we fall short of our potential. By choosing not to reject others, we allow them the space to grow, to change, and to improve. We give them the opportunity to redeem themselves just as we would hope for ourselves. In this way, not rejecting others becomes an act of compassion, a recognition of the shared human experience, and a willingness to see beyond the surface to the deeper potential within each person. Another reason not to reject others is that our relationships are a mirror of ourselves. Often, the way we relate to others is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. If we reject others too easily, it may be because we have unresolved issues within ourselves, fear, insecurity, shame, or anger that we project onto others. Our rejection of others can sometimes be a defense mechanism to protect our own emotional vulnerability. However, by learning to accept others, even in their imperfection, we learn to accept ourselves. When we practice compassion and understanding toward others, we cultivate those same qualities within ourselves. We begin to see our own flaws with greater kindness, and we learn to embrace the parts of ourselves that we may have previously rejected. In this sense, rejecting others is often a way of rejecting our own humanity, while embracing others allows us to embrace our own complexity. Not rejecting others also promotes the idea of community, which is essential for human flourishing. We are not meant to live in isolation. We thrive when we are part of a supportive, connected group. Communities provide us with a sense of belonging, purpose, and identity. They offer us the opportunity to share our experiences, to support one another through hardship, and to celebrate our victories together. When we reject others, we fragment the very fabric of community. We isolate ourselves and in turn deny ourselves the chance to be a part of something larger than ourselves. Building inclusive communities requires us to welcome others, to be open to diversity, and to foster an environment of acceptance and mutual respect. It is through these communities that we find our greatest strength as we draw on the collective wisdom, support, and resilience of those around us. Not rejecting others is about seeing the value in every individual, recognizing that each person has something unique to offer. It is about the understanding that we are all connected by our shared humanity, and that no one's journey is less important or less valuable than our own. By rejecting others, we not only deny them the opportunity to contribute to our lives, but we also deny ourselves the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to experience the full richness of human connection. The act of acceptance and inclusion opens doors to deeper understanding, greater compassion, and a more profound sense of unity. In a world that often feels divided, choosing not to reject others can be a revolutionary act, one that fosters empathy, understanding, and peace. A universal human experience refers to the shared aspects of life that transcend cultural, social, and individual differences. These are the core elements of existence that bind all people, regardless of their background or circumstances, in a common thread of humanity. From the moment we are born to the inevitable moment we face death, we each walk a path marked by experiences of love, loss, joy, pain, and growth. While our individual journeys may differ in details and context, there are emotions, challenges, and fundamental truths that unite us all. It is through this shared experience that we find connection, empathy, and understanding, creating a bridge between seemingly disparate lives and giving us a sense of belonging to something greater than ourselves. One of the most powerful aspects of the universal human experience is our capacity for emotions. All human beings, regardless of where they come from or what they believe, experience a range of emotions: joy, sorrow, fear, hope, anger, and love. These emotions are deeply ingrained in our biology, and they serve as a reminder of our shared vulnerability and capacity for connection. In moments of joy, we celebrate life's triumphs, be they small or large, and in moments of sorrow, we find comfort in knowing that we are not alone in our grief. Whether it is the birth of a child, the loss of a loved one, the feeling of standing in awe of nature's beauty, or the quiet comfort of a kind word, these emotional experiences resonate across all human cultures. The intensity and expression of these emotions may vary, but the underlying feelings are universal. The ability to empathize with others who experience similar emotions, whether they are across the room or across the globe, reminds us that we are all bound by the same basic human condition: is the desire for meaning and purpose. Every culture, philosophy, and religion seeks to answer the same fundamental questions. Why are we here? What is the purpose of life? What happens after we die? These questions have occupied the minds of thinkers, poets, and religious leaders for millennia, and yet the answers remain elusive. However, the search for meaning is not confined to any particular tradition. It is a universal drive. Human beings possess an innate desire to make sense of the world around them. to understand their place within it, and to leave a lasting legacy. Whether it is through religion, art, family, or work, people are constantly searching for a deeper purpose that transcends their immediate circumstances. This drive to seek meaning is an essential part of the human condition, one that shapes our lives, choices, and beliefs. The experience of suffering is another universal human experience that connects us all. While suffering may come in different forms, whether physical, emotional, or existential, it is something that all people encounter at some point in their lives. The nature of suffering is that it is unavoidable and often unpredictable. We suffer from illness, loss, heartbreak, failure, and injustice. It is through suffering that we often learn our greatest lessons, develop resilience, and gain wisdom. Although our personal experiences of suffering may differ greatly, the shared nature of this experience creates a common ground where people can support one another and empathize with each other's pain. Suffering also reminds us of our mortality, pushing us to reflect on the fleeting nature of life and to value the time we have. The experience of love in all its forms is a fundamental aspect of the universal human experience, whether it is the unconditional love between a parent and child, the passionate love between romantic partners, or the deep affection between friends. Love is a powerful force that shapes our lives. Love connects us to others in ways that words cannot fully capture. It transcends language, culture, and time, creating bonds that cannot easily be broken. The joy of loving and being loved is something that all humans experience, and it is a force that drives much of what we do. Love provides comfort in times of despair, it inspires creativity, and it motivates us to be better versions of ourselves. Love is an experience that, no matter how it is expressed or received, holds the same deep significance for every person. The experience of growth and transformation is also universal. As human beings, we are constantly evolving, learning, and adapting to new circumstances. From childhood to adulthood, we undergo a series of developmental changes that shape who we are. These changes are not just physical, they are emotional, psychological, and spiritual as well. The desire for self-improvement, the longing to grow, and the drive to overcome challenges are inherent in all of us. Whether it's overcoming adversity, learning from mistakes, or striving to become more compassionate, we are all on a journey of personal growth. This desire for transformation often leads to moments of profound insight and change, where we shed old patterns of behavior or thinking and emerge as stronger, wiser individuals. The concept of community and connection is another pillar of the universal human experience. Throughout history, human beings have come together in groups to share resources, provide support, and protect one another. The importance of community is seen in the ways in which people bond over shared interests, values, and goals. Whether in small families, extended communities, or larger societies, the need for belonging and connection is deeply ingrained in human nature. People seek out relationships, form friendships, and create networks of support that help them navigate life's challenges. This need for connection fosters empathy and compassion, as it allows us to understand others' experiences and to offer help when needed. In times of crisis, the strength of a community becomes especially apparent as people rally together to support one another and overcome difficulties as a collective unit. The experience of death is one of the most universal aspects of human existence. Every living being faces the inevitability of death, and it is this awareness of our mortality that shapes much of our lives. Death forces us to confront the fragility of life and to reflect on what truly matters. It inspires us to cherish our relationships, to make the most of the time we have, and to consider our legacy. The fear of death and the desire for immortality have been central themes in human culture and philosophy for centuries, but it is through accepting death that we often find the deepest appreciation for life itself. The experience of death, whether it is our own or the loss of a loved one, reminds us of the transient nature of life and urges us to live with intention and gratitude. In conclusion, the universal human experience encompasses the emotions, challenges, and desires that connect us all. From love and loss to the quest for meaning and the inevitability of death, these experiences transcend cultural, social, and individual differences. They are a reminder that despite our apparent differences, we share a common humanity. It is through acknowledging and embracing these universal experiences that we find connection, understanding, and empathy with one another, creating a sense of shared purpose and solidarity in an otherwise fragmented world. The universal human experience is what unites us, what makes us human, and what gives life its profound depth and richness. In conclusion, the journey of walking alone as a woman is not one of isolation, but of self-discovery, resilience, and empowerment. It is a path that embraces the complexities of solitude, offering opportunities for growth, wisdom, and inner strength. By choosing solitude, you become the architect of your own life, developing the confidence and independence to navigate the world on your terms. You confront chaos, adapt to uncertainty, and find profound wisdom in moments of quiet reflection. Through self-reliance and an open heart toward others, you recognize that while independence is essential, connection remains a vital thread that weaves us all together. Your courage to walk this path is not just a reflection of your strength, but a testament to the transformative power of embracing life's challenges. The ability to be both strong and compassionate, independent and connected is a delicate balance that enriches not only your own life, but the lives of those you encounter. In embracing your journey, you also open the door for others to do the same, creating a ripple effect that transcends boundaries and unites people in their shared human experience. Good luck on your journey. May you find the courage to face the unknown, the strength to continue growing, and the wisdom to understand that even in moments of solitude, you are never truly alone. Thank you for embarking on this path of self-discovery, and may it lead you to a life filled with purpose, fulfillment, and the deep joy that comes from knowing yourself truly and completely.